Chapter 3: The Awakening of the Garden. The dawn painted the sky in shades of pink and gold as Mariana ventured into her uncle's garden for the first time. The morning mist clung to the plants like a ghostly veil, blurring the boundaries between reality and dream. The morning dew glistened on the leaves like tiny diamonds, creating a spectacle of light that left Mariana breathless. With each step she took, Mariana felt as if she were entering another world. The plants here were different, more vibrant, more alive than she had ever seen in her years of botanical study. She recognized rare species that she had only studied in old, dusty books, growing in perfect harmony with local flora she had never seen documented. It was as if the garden were a nexus between all the world's ecosystems, an impossible oasis of biodiversity. "Incredible," she murmured, gently caressing a leaf of intense purple. The texture was like velvet under her fingers, warm and alive. To her amazement, the plant seemed to shudder under her touch, as if responding to her presence. Mariana withdrew her hand, startled, but the plant leaned towards her, as if yearning for more contact. Mariana blinked, unsure if what she was seeing was real or a trick of her overexcited imagination. "What are you?" she whispered to the plant, not really expecting an answer. A soft hum filled the air, as if the entire garden vibrated in response to her question. The nearby flowers opened a bit more, turning their petals towards her as if they were curious faces observing her. Mariana took a step back, overwhelmed by the sensation of being surrounded by conscious life. Her scientific mind struggled to find a rational explanation, but her heart was beating with an emotion she couldn't name. It was fear, awe, and a strange feeling of belonging, all mixed into an amalgam of sensations that threatened to overwhelm her. Suddenly, a familiar aroma invaded her senses, pulling her out of her stupor. It was an earthy smell, slightly bitter, with sweet and floral notes. A scent she knew well from her studies, but had never experienced with such intensity. Mariana stopped in her tracks, her heart pounding. "It can't be," she murmured, following the scent as if it were an invisible thread guiding her through the green labyrinth. Before her, growing in a spiral around an ancient tree whose species she couldn't identify, was the ayahuasca. The vines intertwined in a way that seemed almost intentional. As if the plant had decided to grow like this, forming patterns that looked like symbols of some forgotten language. "What were you doing here, Uncle Ernesto?" Mariana whispered, approaching the plant with a mixture of reverence and fear. Ayahuasca was known for its psychoactive properties and its use in shamanic rituals. Seeing it here, growing with such exuberance, raised more questions than it answered. Just as her fingers were about to touch the vine, a child's voice resonated in the garden. "Don't touch it." Mariana turned abruptly, her heart leaping to her throat. There, between two bushes of bright flowers she hadn't noticed before, was the boy she thought she had seen the day before. He was about 10 years old, with brown skin and dark eyes that seemed to contain the wisdom of centuries. His clothes were simple, almost primitive, as if he had stepped out of a forgotten time. "Who are you?" Mariana asked, surprised. "How did you get in here?" The boy smiled mysteriously, his white teeth contrasting with his dark skin. "I've always been here. I'm Kuri. And you're the new guardian." Mariana frowned, confused and a bit alarmed. "Guardian? I don't understand. This is my uncle's garden." Kuri shook his head, his smile fading. "This garden is much older than your uncle, than you, than me. It's a portal, Mariana. A bridge between worlds." The boy's words resonated in the air, laden with a weight that Mariana couldn't fully comprehend. She felt as if she were on the edge of a precipice, about to fall into an abyss of knowledge for which she wasn't prepared. "A portal," she repeated, her voice barely a whisper. "What do you mean?" Before Kuri could answer, a sudden wind blew through the garden. The plants shook violently, their leaves whispering secrets in a language that Mariana couldn't understand but that resonated deep within her being. And then she saw it. For an instant, the world seemed to blur, as if a veil had been lifted. Among the plants, Mariana saw translucent figures moving. Ethereal faces that appeared and disappeared in seconds. Some smiled, others cried, all seemed to be searching for something. What was that?" Mariana gasped, her mind struggling to process what she had just seen. She felt dizzy, as if the ground beneath her feet had become unstable. Kuri looked at her seriously, all pretense of being a normal child vanishing. At that moment, Mariana saw in his eyes an impossible age, a wisdom that no child could possess. "They are the lost souls," Kuri explained, his voice laden with ancient sadness. "They come here seeking healing. And now, you are the one who must help them." Mariana shook her head, taking a step back. "No, I don't understand. Souls. Healing. I'm a botanist, I don't know anything about souls or portals or..." Her voice broke, the reality of her situation falling upon her like an avalanche. None of this made sense. None of this should be possible. And yet, here she was, in an impossible garden, talking to a boy who clearly wasn't a boy, surrounded by plants that responded to her touch and seeing ghosts. Suddenly, a memory hit Mariana with the force of lightning. Her as a child, in a similar garden, surrounded by plants that seemed to whisper to her. The kind face of her uncle Ernesto, teaching her the names of flowers that no book mentioned. And then, darkness. Pain. Fear. A fire that consumed everything, screams that tore through the night. Mariana staggered, overwhelmed by the avalanche of emotions and memories. "No, I can't. I don't know how." Kuri approached and took her hand. His touch was surprisingly warm and comforting, anchoring her in the present. "The garden chose you, Mariana. It will show you the way. But you must be willing to face your own demons first." As Mariana looked at the boy, the garden around her seemed to come to life with new intensity. The colors became more vibrant, the aromas deeper. And in the back of her mind, a barely audible whisper. "Welcome home, Mariana." The world she knew was crumbling, revealing a new and mysterious one. Mariana knew there was no turning back. The garden had claimed her, and with it, a destiny she never imagined. "Where do I start?" she finally asked, her voice trembling but determined. Kuri smiled, a glimmer of hope shining in his ancient eyes. "At the beginning, of course. Come, there's much you must learn." Hand in hand, Mariana and Kuri ventured deeper into the garden. With each step, Mariana felt she was leaving behind her old life, her old beliefs. The path ahead was uncertain, full of mysteries and dangers she couldn't yet imagine. But it was also full of magic, of possibilities, of a connection with the natural world that she had always yearned for without knowing it. As they walked, the plants seemed to lean towards them, as if welcoming them. And in the air, the whisper of 1,000 voices, of 1,000 souls waiting to be healed. Mariana breathed deeply, filling her lungs with the magical air of the garden. Her journey as a guardian was just beginning.